again. What is up, YouTube? HPJ here, and I'm coming at you guys with another deck profile. And of course, we're going back to the retro deck profiles because people love the retro deck profile series. So as you guys have seen previously in a video released before this, I was doing my what was it I was doing? I should remember this. Oh, I showed you guys a video of the retro deck profiles that were to come, and of course they're going to be spellcaster oriented. So the first wave of spellcasters will be, well, starting off with this one, Where the Royal Family Sleeps, Necro Valley. And I have a big history with the Gravekeepers in the Gravekeeper archetype. This was the first place win I've had in a locals was thanks to GK. GK, this build is actually the 2011 build, and I'm stretching this very lightly. This is a retro deck profile, so a lot of the decks that I played, I don't have the list for anymore. Because stupid me, I didn't put them in a cell phone and remembered, hey, this is kind of what you ran. So I'm definitely going off of memory of playing this deck. So there are a lot of things that probably were changed or I didn't have at that time. So I put in other things in order to fill those in. So now that I have, those more expensive cards, because as time gone, a lot of those cards have gotten cheaper. Hell yeah, I'm going to be, building my deck off of it. And I could not wait to build Gravekeeper because Gravekeeper is such an iconic deck. One of the first archetypes in the Yu-Gi-Oh series, and as it progressed, it became a very heavy anti-meta deck overall. And it's such a really good anti-meta deck too, because it's one of the few decks in the game that circumvent around dealing with the graveyard and negating the graveyard itself. So cards and effects that are in the graveyard, trying to move things out the graveyard. So there's a really good counter to a lot of things. And at that time, one of the big decks that definitely used the graveyard, there was actually no. Yeah, it was one big one, and that was Insector. That was quite shocking that a lot of people didn't. No, a lot of people did play Gravekeeper to deal with Insector. Insector had a lot of things to out a lot of things. So Gravekeepers dealing with them was a big thing, and then I have a good lineup of story for you guys. So why don't we go ahead and we go into the deck profile, just because it's already getting deep. So starting off with the monsters, we have 3 copies of Gravekeeper's Descendant, 3 copies of Gravekeeper's Commandant. Hold on, actually I'm going to just raise this a bit so I'll give it some room so that we can just see everything. So 3 copies of Gravekeeper's this Commandant, 3 copies of Gravekeeper's Recruiter, 3 copies of Gravekeeper's Spy, 2 copies of Gravekeeper's Assailant, 1 copy of Gravekeeper Guard, 1 copy of Blackwing Gale the Whirlwind, 1 copy of Malefic Star Dragon, and 1 copy of Malefic Cyber End Dragon. So that is it for the monsters. Then we're going to move on into the spells. So just give me 1 second. Alright, so going on into the spells. 3 copies of Necro Valley, 2 copies of Gravekeeper Stell, 2 copies of Royal Tribute, 3 copies of Pot of Duality, 1 Dark Hole, 1 MST, and 1 Allure of Darkness. So that is it for the spells. Then we're going to go into the trap cards. And for the traps, I am rocking 2 copies of Rite of Spirit, then 2 copies of Mirror Force, followed by 2 copies of Deprison, 2 copies of Compulsory Activation Device, and 1 copy of Bottomless Trap Hole. So then that is it for the traps. So deck total 40. Then for the extra deck, 1 Chimera Tech Fortress Dragon, 1 Cyber End Dragon, 1 Arcanite Magician, 1 Black Rose Dragon, 1 Stardust Dragon, 1 Leviathan Dragon, 1 Wind of Zenmains, 1 Levier the Sea Dragon, 1 Tintempo the Percussionist Djinn, 1 Maestroke the Symphonic Djinn, 1 Photon Papilla Operative, 1 number 39 Utopia, 1 Stillstorm Roach, 1 Gaga Cowboy, and 1 Gemini Pearl. So that is it for the extra deck. That is a total of 15. Oh yeah, there's a lot of stuff to talk about in those. So my version of GK definitely took advantage of a lot of things. Just like the main staples, big monsters hitting the board thanks to Necro Valley, shutting down your opponent's graveyard, and then being able to remove things like crazy. That was literally just because of how much access to things you had, because of how Negro Valley was treated, and how many things were just stabilized because of such. So starting off, our Gravekeeper's Descendants. This is a monster that removes cards from your opponent's side of the field by tributing a Gravekeeper monster on the board. Fun fact, you can have another Gravekeeper on the field and then tribute itself to destroy a card on the field. This was a big for a lot of decks at that time, because some of them were actually playing Gravekeepers in terms of, was it Malefic World or Malefic Valley, as it was called. It was an anti-meta deck that had a lot of the Malefic monsters in it. It used the Gravekeeper engine to survive negating the cards from the graveyard. It flipped skill drain because things did get over skill drain. Some things still get over skill drain. And you were able to just destroy cards off of that. So yeah, there was a lot that you took advantage of because of it. And Gravekeeper's Descendant was definitely one of them, because it was able to pop itself while another Gravekeeper monster was on the board, and then you were able to destroy other cards on the field. And then you just ransack with a lot of things. Even still, because Necro Valley is a fact, this was a 2K beat stick. Yeah, this is a 2K beat stick. So yeah, definitely shout out to Necro Valley. We have a lot to talk about when we get to Necro Valley. Next up is Gravekeeper's Commanded. Simple thing. This was your field spell searcher. This was one of the many of the field spell searchers that came on the Force of the Breaker that had its artwork features the field spell in the background. Other than that, it's the only Earth attributed Gravekeeper that's in the main deck. There were a couple of other Earth attributed Gravekeeper monsters, but you're basically using this monster to search for your field spell, or bring it out as just another beast, because it was one of the lower level Gravekeepers that was rocking 2100 for its attack thanks to its field spell. So then we have Gravekeeper's Recruiter. This is the Witch of the Black Forest for the Gravekeepers. And a TCG exclusive at that. When the card was sent from the field to the grave, you're able to add a Gravekeeper monster with 1500 or less defense from your deck to your hand. So you pop this with Descendant. It was one of your best targets for Descendant, because you pop it off of Descendant, and then you were able to search your deck for another Gravekeeper card and add it to your hand. And you can even add copies of itself, because it didn't limit itself there. And just a really great addition to Gravekeepers. And it's funny because this is one of the rare, since it's a Star Trek Blast support for Gravekeepers, because when the Merit Structure deck came out, it was right around the time Star Trek Blast came out. Graveyard decks were all over the place, and excuse me, I need some water. Gravekeepers definitely were happy. Gravekeeper players were definitely happy when Recruiter came out, because Recruiter definitely helped feed the game, and that's what ended up making Gravekeeper so meta, was because here's a structure deck blueprinting all the cards you needed, with the exceptions of Royal Tribute, and then Royal Tribute got hot to where it was like a $15 common. Then it got reprinted, and then yeah, people were just spamming it like crazy, and then it had so many advantages, which is why it lasted for a good period of time, even with some of its limits. The next one up is Gravekeeper Spy, and this is basically just, special summon a Gravekeeper monster, 1500 or less attack from your deck. You can use summon copies of itself, play Book of Moon, flip it face down, flip it back face up. Yeah, there are a lot of advantages to Spy. So I was relatively using a lot of decks because it was just a really good tribute fodder as well. Funny enough, you should be lucky Gravekeepers didn't have a tuner. Because if they did have a tuner, oh, it would be crazy. Just imagine all the things you could synchro with thanks to Spy. If the tuner monster came out, like if it was a really decent level tuner, oh yeah, like what are the most common levels? 3 and 4. So those are basically useful for sevens and for 5, 6, and for 6, 7s, and 8s, which are the most common numbers for synchro monsters. And then Exceed shenanigans were just all over the place thanks to Gravekeepers, because all the 4s that you were able to bring out thanks to Spy. So there was a lot of advantages Spy definitely helped out with. Then we have Gravekeeper's Assailant, which is basically here just the battle position switch. 2K attack and defense under Necro Valley, and just a really good beat stick for that purpose. Then we have Gravekeeper's Guard, which fooled a lot of people because Guard bounced stuff back, it didn't destroy. So there are a lot of cards that had immunity to destruction, and definitely came around 2011 where cards were becoming immune to destruction. Gravekeeper's Guard was a great way to get out of those cards because Gravekeeper's Guard would just flip, send the monster back to hand. So monsters that had material like Exceeds would definitely go to the grave. They have to waste more material to resummon them, as well as synchro monsters. Definitely against a lot of fusion monsters as well. But the only fusion deck that was that prevalent at the time, I think, was just Hero. So, and they had a lot of their own issues, unfortunately. No Bubble Beat, sorry, but yeah, that was the thing. Gale was just an easy way to shrink a monster, beat over it, and then synchro into stuff like Arcanite, Stardust, no, Arcanite Magician, Black Rose Dragon, any of the sixes that were still around. So just an optimal thing there. And it even helped exceed into some sixes as well. I mean, some rank threes. And then you had your beat sticks in the form of Malefic Cyber End Dragon and Malefic Stardust Dragon. These two are awesome, and I want to say the MVP of the deck was definitely the health of Malefic Stardust Dragon, because Malefic Stardust Dragon is the only one out of the monsters that had an actual effect attached to it, which was while this monster was on the field, your opponent could not destroy your field spell, and field spells cannot be then the whole ruling with field spells as well was a definite thing there. Also, it changed in 2013 where you can now both players can now play a field spell. That did not affect Malefic Stardust Dragon in any way, shape, or form, because I think it just had to be your field spell being destroyed. Or if there was no field spell in the field, then it would be destroyed. But the thing about Malefic Stardust was that you definitely just used it as fodder to protect your field spell. And then you had all these different cards you can use it with. Like, what was that one card? Deck Devastation Virus and Eradicator Epidemic Virus was a great way to out things as well, because it would do with spells and traps, and then you deal with low level monsters. And you had these big monsters that you could easily summon thanks to it. And then Malefic Cyber N was just the big beat stick. 4K attacker, swing, bam. What much can your opponent do against that? So, alright. That's it for my monsters. Then we're going to go into my spells. Of course, now we get to talk about where the royal family sleeps, and that is Necro Valley. This is one of the most controversial field spells in the series, because this card had to have erratas. Like, this is the most errata card in the game. And that's why it's so controversial, because there were so many different cards that tried to get over it because of their abilities. So because of this situation, they ended up having to errata it. I think at this time we were with the errata of cards like Treeborn Frog could get over Necro Valley. Global can get over Necro Valley. Even though this card's effect says cards cannot be moved from the graveyard. Well, there were cards, because of how the rulings were between TCG and OCG, they had a lot of issues trying to rule Necro Valley, and eventually it had to get an errata. Again, I think Joey's World was another errata. Yugi's World was an errata. Oh god, Yugi's World. I remember that because people were spamming for those secret BLS. And with Necro Valley's reprint once again, one of the things about Necro Valley was that it dealt with Graveyard. And that was the reason why I picked it as a deck to play with, because I did not like Insectors. And I was tired of dealing with Insectors. So, yeah, I definitely expand out the Necro Valley for dealing with the Graveyard. Oh, and it shat on a lot of other decks too that messed around with the Graveyard. Then we have the copies of Gravekeeper Stell. This is basically the Royal Return of Life for Gravekeepers. It got back a lot of your Gravekeepers so that you can get, if you Royal Tribute yourself, you at least have your recovery there. Sadly enough, there aren't any Gravekeeper cards that got back Gravekeeper spells and traps at that time. I think we do have a couple that do it now, so that's a good thing. And I'm probably misremembering, so don't quote me on that. Then we have, of course, the big card itself, Royal Tribute. So you cannot play this card unless you have Necro Valley unless Necro Valley is active. Then both players discard all the monsters in their hand to the graveyard. This is one of the heavy anti-hand cards in the game. This is definitely a hand disruption card at its fullest. All you needed was a field spell, and that field spell is Necro Valley. And this is what really set Gravekeepers off for being a top tier deck at that time, because they were access to getting rid of a lot of cards in your hand, such as Maxi, Effect Veiler, um, which were two of the biggest hand traps in the game at that time. And it definitely did mess with a lot of heavy monster oriented decks. So if you got Necro Valley, oh boy, I think the only thing, what was the only deck that actually didn't care if it got, oh, Dark World. Yeah, Dark World, that was the thing. Oh, that was a thing. Dark World was GK's worst matchup, because remember, you're discarding your opponent's cards. What does Dark World do? They like being discarded by your opponent's effects. So yeah, that was a nasty thing to have to deal with, was um Dark World. But you did have some anti Dark World hate in your deck as well. So yeah. Oh, Bright Side was that Necro Valley allowed them not to come back. So you're at least happy about that. Then we have Pot of Duality to help survive the deck's consistency, because this deck didn't rarely special summon. Um, Great Pot of Duality was a really good setup card for them. And still, no, it wasn't as expensive as it used to be, because when the deck was thriving, Secret Pot of Duality, because it was secret, were like the $100 card. $100 to like 80 card. $80 to $100 card. Then on top of that, most decks that were topping at that point, um, when it was released, definitely took advantage of that. Was like late 2011 when it was released, and then it did get its reprint, and thank God it got its reprint, because oh god, it was so expensive. I was so happy it got its reprint. So yeah, definitely shout out to the Pot of Duality, which is still thriving now, because thank you, Flaunderies. MST for back row removal, massive monster removal for Dark Hole, and Allure Darkness for extended draw power. We're going to go into the trap cards, because yeah, this is going to be a long video. Screw it. We have Rite of Spirit. This is just to help you bring back Gravekeeper monsters if you needed to, so Descendants, Recruiters, and stuff like that. And you just have some big beat sticks under Necro Valley. And this card was one of the other cards that were unaffected by Necro Valley. Mirror Force Indeed Prison for battle trap support, because this was not the format that changed the game. That was the next format. No, 2 formats later. No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 formats later. That changed it. But yeah, Deep Prison and Mirror Force were definitely highly used, just to clear out massive monsters and banish things that were needed to be banished, that you couldn't destroy. For other removal, that was thanks to Compulsory Evacuation Device, and that was a card that was used to bounce that card, because of the situations of, yeah, this card can be destroyed by battle or by card effect, so we're going to use Compulse to get rid of the cards, and your opponent has to then waste more material to get rid of it. And even back when some of your cards if you wanted to get out of dodge. And then Bottomless Trap Hole as some more removal as well. So things that are not in the main deck, as you can see, Magical Dimension was a good support card, the Eradicators and stuff. Eradicator, Epidemic Virus, the Eradicator, Epidemic, Deck Devastation Virus, Magical Dimension, because they're all Spellcaster, Gravekeeper's Visionary, Gravekeeper's Chief, for some other staple stuff as well. Krebin's E-Telly, were some big hits as well. And then Solemn Warning, Solemn Judgment, because Judgment had just came back as well. Now, going into the extra deck, and the reason why I can skip over most of it is basically because these are just things that you utilize for it. The one thing I don't have in this extra deck, and I know I don't have it because, oops, I forgot about it, was our boy, Acid Golem. Acid Golem was a really good card at the time. It was like manga promo. So if you picked up the manga, you were able to get it. But 3k attack and defense, really not much you can do about it. And it destroyed itself, because every standby phase had to deplete material. And I think at a point you had to destroy it in order for you to get rid of it. Otherwise, you were just standing on a beat stick that was taking out your life points. But Cyber Dragon was here to help with machine decks that were still roaming around. Cyber Dragon was most likely in your side deck as well, with system downs and stuff to deal with machines. Then from there, we had Cyber End Dragon that I banished for the Malefic Cyber End. Arcanite Magician, Black Rose Dragon were some, staples of the synchros. Ancient Fairy Dragon is also a really good one for this as well, because you can pop your opponent's field spell, and then go search for an Echo Valley. And then she can use her ability to summon a Gravekeeper, which is not hard at that point. And then you know, big beat sticks. Just anything you utilize with 7s, 8s. Gravekeepers had that access to with some decent amount of support from their spellcasters. Ally Jessica Caster if you're running Effect Veiler, just as a hand trap herself. So yeah, those are those two. And then Stardust Dragon for the Stardust, Malefic Stardust. Also to add to the Stardust Dragon, Starlight Road was still a thing. Because I believe Judgment Dragon was still running his head around thanks to Twilight. So yeah, Stardust Dragon definitely had its advantages with JD still being around and Starlight Road being useful for that. And Dark Hole. Just as some of the lineup of things that you use for your extra deck because Exceeds are still a thing. Leviathan Dragon, just becoming the beat stick. Defense and removal thanks to Zen mains. Leviator Sea Dragon to get back your monsters that were banished, or even your opponent's monsters if you want to play around with them. Tintempo to deal with your opponent's Succeed monsters and reduce their monsters, but also give all the Symphonics on the field, all the Degen monsters on your field the additional bonus. And they had to make it exclusive to the Degen Exceed monsters because the Degen Ritual support. Then we had May Stroke because she was a good wall and she could also Book of Moon things. Popular Operative to flip things into attack position and reduce their attack by 500. Utopia as just a generic for Stillstorm Roach to deal with the heavy amount of monsters that were being played that were high level. Then Cowboy for the 800 burn. Cowboy was a jump exclusive if I'm not mistaken. A really good one too because this guy definitely did help out with things. And then Gemini Pearl, just because it was the only Exceed monster at the time that got over Fiendish Chain. Because that's another card I can add to the lineup of cards to support the deck was Fiendish Chain. And that was because Fiendish Chain negated monster effects. Gemini Pearl doesn't have an effect. So you had a 2600 attacker that can knock out things if you needed it to. So with that said and done, ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of the Gravekeeper Retro deck profile. I do hope you guys appreciated this deck profile and me going over some of the good times that I've had with this. My record for my first local win was 4-0 in the main lineup, and then I swept the top matches. What were some of my worst matches? I had to deal with 6am that was still around and utilizing both Beast and Barkion. That was a trip. Then Insector, because they are a thing. And Hero, because fuck you, Hero. I hate Hero. So yeah, that's pretty much just the lineup of things that I had to deal with. If you guys have any more questions, you can leave them in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for supporting the channel, watching this deck profile. I really do appreciate it. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel as it helps me out tremendously. You can hit the notification bell to be informed of when I do upload more content to my channel. My social media links are in the description box below. And with that said and done, thanks everyone for watching. HPJ signing out.